Hey, good morning, folks. We're going to do some artwork today for an Eberron adventure that we're publishing called Crystals of Mabar. It's for characters level 7 and 8. 4 or 5 characters will do the job. Give me a second here to check my signal, see if we're coming through, and then we'll get to work here. So, mic check, 1, 2, 3. To work here. So, mic check. Yep, sounds pretty good. All right, let's drop that down so it doesn't bother me. There, and we'll grab that. And let's see, it just takes a second for me to get my social media up and running here, so bear with me for the moment, and then we'll get to work here for an hour or so. Bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah, there we go. Copy paste, copy paste. So for those that don't know, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. What's up? I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and then I publish them online, and we do all of that here on my stream. So I've been an Eberron enthusiast in Dungeons and Dragons since about 2004. I've been DMing since 1987, and I've been creating content on the DMsGuild since 2018. So there's a slew of books we have down below that we've already created. They all have free previews, so you're welcome to check this stuff out. If you think they're cool, consider making a purchase or something to support the channel. I also have a Discord that you're welcome to hang out and sharpen your knives in. A Patreon if you want to show me support that way. And let's see. That should be my intro. Let's pull this up here. There you go. Here on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we are live in the future. All 387 episodes are compiled here. Here's the different books that I've created. Check that stuff out. And without further ado, this is the book cover. We made this around episode 40. So you can keep an eye out for that on the DMsGuild once it publishes. Hopefully Q1 next year. Or Q1 this year. And no, we're not going to be done in March. There's no way. I wish I was, but I don't think we are. So here's the cover that we're working on right now. I think we're working on the gal. Yeah, the story here is that at some point your characters hear a tree branch snap and cry of pain, and then monsters blah, 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 blah. And so these characters are stuck in a tree. They've been up there for over a day now, and there's undead basically milling around waiting to eat them. And one of their friend, the third party member, their friend fell out of the tree after fall. Well, the tree branch snapped. He was asleep, no chance of recovery. Undead got them, and that's how your characters find them. These guys have more information about what's going on further into the forest that they were trying to get away from. So they are a quest guide that will point you in the right direction for your team to get to where they need to be. So let's keep at it. I'm just gonna do some cleanup here. Yeah, I don't think I need to mess with that. Let's curve that up. That'll fix the problem. There. Good. So I stream every day, except for Sundays. I take that day off for my family. But otherwise, I'm here in the morning, Monday through Friday, making artwork like this for whatever the next book is. Once a book gets far enough in progress to need artwork, it becomes my weekday morning project. I also stream during brunch in Seattle on Saturdays, and let me thin that arm up a bit. And then I have a lunch stream that I run. Typically, it'll be 3 out of 4 days: Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's either going to be Monday or Wednesday. It just depends on what my availability is. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are pretty solid. So, Tuesdays and Fridays. And then I also stream Thursday nights. So I'm here. What is that? 10 times, 10 times per week, Monday through Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and then Thursday, and then Saturday. Yeah, 10 times per week. And it's just a matter of, what are we working on right now for whatever it is that we'll work on that day. So this is my primary project. This is the closest to publication, so we're doing the artwork for it so we can get it out the door. And otherwise, I've been working on the Bastion campaign supplement to use the new 2024 D&D Bastion mechanics as a source of adventure hooks to run a campaign hinging on the decisions that your characters make about what to do with their Bastion. I'm going to thin that neck up a bit. There we go. I don't think I need a lot more detail on her. I think she's looking pretty good. I just want to clean it up a bit so it fits into the piece a little bit better. Here and here. Let's pull that light forward a bit. I don't want to overdo highlights here. Merge that in like that. That feels pretty good. Yeah, that feels pretty good. We'll go there and there. Then we can push this up a bit. I feel like I need to go crazy here. Let's get that to blend in here. I just need a little bit of highlights just to create some lighting diversity, so it doesn't seem too uniform. Push that out of the way there. Hey, good morning. What's up, Doma? I am so far so good. I'm having a morale issue in that I feel overburdened with the work that I'm doing. It's a thing I go through occasionally. It's just part of being an artist, really. Just feeling overwhelmed and then fighting your way through it and then being re-inspired by your victory over your own self-doubt and blah, blah, blah. It's not imposter syndrome. I feel pretty confident about, like, who I am. Merge that. Merge down. There we go. But it's something that you have to look at and address occasionally. just to make sure you're keeping yourself sane. So, but yeah, so I would say everything is on course for me today. More of the same. Let's get that blended in here. There we go. But yeah, I'm almost done with this. I'm pretty happy with how she's looking. Lighting is subtle. I didn't want it to be. I don't need radical lighting here. They're under a canopy, so it's going to be diffused light, which means gentle highlights in general and more monotone. I think I'm achieving that pretty well. Let's see. I'm going to pull that forward a bit. I'm frustrated with how long it's taking for me to get the page layouts done for the book. But that's been a gripe I've had for the entire project. It's the 16:9 format is just such a different style of a different format for pages than the typical 8.5 by 11 pages that I work with. That it's every day it's a new challenge. Just trying to figure out just how to make stuff fit into the spaces that I have. Whoa, that's too dark. But I'll figure it out. But yeah, the struggle is, I'm in the struggle. Constantly in the struggle, in the thick of it. But that's how I grow stronger as an artist. So I don't mind the struggle so much. It's good for me. Keeps me strong. What's up? You understand? Yeah. Right on. Counts. I am really. Well, thank you. That is very kind. That is very, very kind. I'm looking forward to being able to. God's willing, I'll be done with the page layouts in February, and then I can really focus fire on completing that work. Yes, actually, that does matter quite a bit. Actually, it's nice to I do the streaming to promote the stuff that I'm doing, but it's also a form of accountability, so that I can guarantee that I'm going to show up and just get something done every day, and so that the sense of overwhelm doesn't creep up too heavy on me. And oops, let's keep that aligned. There we go. That feels good. And I think there's I don't know how rampant a problem this actually is or not, but I used to see, I haven't seen it in a bit, but I have seen kind of a disparage among new artists that are disgruntled about how long it takes to complete their piece. Because a lot of times people's impression, regardless of how unrealistic it is, but really good artists that post their work and have at 128 times speeds, like the little thing is just flitting around, their mouse is flitting around and is barely registering as a thing. It's just the pieces kind of manifests in the course of 5 or 20 minutes. And if you're new to art, it can be what's the word I'm looking for? It can be deceiving, thinking how quickly you're going to be able to produce work. But I think the public service that I'm providing here is showing you just how ridiculously slow a process can be. I mean, this is one illustration, and I've made the book so that most of the illustrations are going to use tokens and maps that we already have constructed. So it really isn't that overbearing. But you've also seen me already do the initial pencils for a number of other pieces that will take time to resolve. But I think there's a lot of value in just demonstrating. There's nothing easy about illustration. The entire thing is just a constant struggle. It gets easier the more experienced you become, but it never gets easy. You know? Just gonna borrow some color off of his face. There. I'm glad it's fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope to be entertaining for those that would spend time with me. I kind of like the I used to do a lot of artwork in study hall and in high school and junior high, middle school, I guess, for most people. But yeah, there was study halls, right? Get stuff done. Of course, I wouldn't get stuff done. I skipped out on a lot of class because I didn't care. But I was constantly doing artwork and map making and whatever. But so study halls was a great opportunity for me to scratch that itch during the day. So I like a study hall sort of feel. I don't think anything that I don't think I'm overbearing in conversation. So I can slide into the background unless you like want to pay attention to what I'm saying. That's kind of opt in, opt out, you know. There, that feels square line shapes is generally masculine. Straight lines, perpendicular and parallel, right angles, that's far more masculine. Curves and soft bows and acute angles is far more feminine. So her hairline there was too boxy. It was boxing in her face too much. She already has a square jawline. So I wanted to make sure I was able to from there to curve it out more so it can emphasize the femininity. I'm going to just grab that and drop that down here. So, it's also tons of video. Draw this thing with this amount of time. Right. And they just show, but they just can't compensate for the years. Right. Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's brutal. It's the painstaking. Every piece, you gain more skill with every piece that you do, and at the same time realize how much more you can become. Artwork really is just a great expression of just the human experience of striving to achieve things in the time that you have. It's yeah, it's kind of fun. I don't really feel philosophical this morning, so I think I could be saying things a little bit more profoundly if I was in that sort of mood, but oh well. Let's add that in here. That'll help deepen that up a bit. add another layer so I can drop in some shadow without regrets. There we go. Yeah, we'll eventually finish this project, and we'll move on to the next book. Like we spent a year doing all the illustrations in the Spelljammer book that we published in March. That was maybe it was like 9 months that we actually spent on all the. I mean, there was a lot of illustrations that weren't accounted for in that piece. Like we had to do a lot of page art to make that happen. So it was a more extensive process. This has again a lot of the illustrations are just going to use the tokens that we already created. So all the past work is future illustration. But yeah, once this is done, we'll move on to the next piece. We're still playtesting the martial power system, and the playtesting for that isn't going to be done until June. So I don't really anticipate that book publishing until at best November, if not 2026, like early 26. It's an entirely new 5e magic system for martial characters to use. It needs a lot of testing and tweaking and making work the way so that it can actually integrate into your game without breaking anything. So that'll be really fun. I still want to. I have the color mana system is still on plate because all the classes got changed in 2024. So the color mana system is becoming less relevant every week. Every time they put out a new 2024 book, it pulls the audience more into the 2024 mechanics. So if I want those previously made books to remain relevant, I have to update them. Luckily, Wizards doesn't do vast updates to their game very often. Once every 10 years feels manageable. But as my library of work continues to grow, it will become less viable for me to adapt it to new editions, which means I need to eventually, if I have too many books in a specific edition and I want those ideas to float over to a new edition, that's going to eventually cause me to spend all my time just simply updating books that already exist, and as opposed to being able to create new stuff. So at some point, I'm going to have to walk away from the work that from 5e stuff, or commit myself to a form of 5e that won't change. And that is unlikely. So ultimately what I want to do is move out of the 5e game space and move into a more universal, generic space that can be used by multiple systems, that has more longevity and retention, so it becomes future proof. By having by creating generic stuff, like generic system stuff, you future-proof yourself from system changes. So if I build things that work off of basic D20 die rolls, then you can apply that to virtually any game that uses a D20 die roll. That's ultimately where I want to get. I see text over there. I don't feel like that's adding value. I'm going to take that back. What's up? New Monster Manual. Next one. Yeah. Yeah. I think I've been using the new encounter calculator in the 2024 DMG for the Martial Powers Mega Dungeon playtest that we've been running. We're only 3rd level right now, but so far the battles have been pretty good. The team is taking damage, is forcing resource use every battle that they have. But so far, I haven't stumbled accidentally into a TPK. I haven't caused any TPKs intentionally either. But we're only... Geez, what is it? We're like 4 sessions in to the dungeon, so yeah, I'm pretty happy. I mean, they're given, basically they're allowed a long rest every session, so they're constantly topping up their resources as they go through. But you know, 3 to 5 encounters in a 4-hour block of time is a pretty decent clip to be able to move through. So we're getting a lot of input, changes every day, finding things that are for the most part too good, that need to be backed down. We're rarely finding things that like feel inadequate. It's more of like, this is overtuned, we need to scale this back a bit, and find a softer solution that doesn't, like when you're playtesting, if you're like for example, the some of the options we're doing with Monk, the way that the martial power system works is that you can sacrifice action economy during your round of combat to gain free mana, so that with whatever action economy you have left over, you have more resources to do cool things. Like you could burn out your movement and your bonus action to use your action to do something that's stronger than what you would normally be able to do because your mana limits. But it also reduces the time that you spend, because you aren't doing movement and a bonus action and your action. You're just taking an action and you're juicing what that action is. So if you were able to do multiple things with your action economy normally to have statistical impact on the round of combat, you're reducing it down to less actions, more impact. So the round moves faster when you do that. But one of the side effects of that is that we have to be careful about what we allow you to do that with. For a while here, we were allowing monks to use that mechanic to be able to use Flurry of Blows. So what ends up happening, monk gets into position, dumps their movement to get free mana that they can then just spend repeatedly on Flurry of Blows. So basically, to give up your movement, you're getting 3 attacks per round, and that is overclocking the ability. That's too efficient. So instead of throwing the mana generation idea away, we scale back on what it can be applied to. So we just modify the language so that like there's different disciplines. There's 5 different disciplines. There's there's strikes and reactions and exploits and maneuvers and sustained effects and reactions. It's like those are the 5 different disciplines that we have. And so like if you're going to generate mana by sacrificing movement, if a class feature says this is considered a maneuver, for instance, or this is considered a reaction power, then you know, if it says this is considered a power of some sort, then you can use your action economy to generate mana to use that thing. So there are things inside of subclasses, like all the monk subclasses have things that they can use as a martial power, but the core features, the lesson we pulled from there is like, don't make class core features something that can be replicated by sacrificing, by generating mana through action economy, but give the characters a reason to feel rewarded by going into the subclass. I'm going to choose this subclass because it's going to let me I can generate mana and do this thing with that subclass. So each subclass becomes specialized in how they can use their action economy. So that creates a really cool game loop that lets you really make each subclass feel unique, even if they aren't particularly popular. You can make unpopular things really cool by giving you like, this is going to let you do that thing that you'd like to be able to do more often. So now it's like, oh yeah, I would love, like Arcane Archer becomes super fucking sick as a class because you can reduce the cost of so many of the arrow strikes that you can do. So you can, like an Arcane Archer can punch out like smite-like damage frequently and have kicker effects added to it. Otherwise, like most people don't normally choose Arcane Archer because they're not optimal. This makes them like really competitive. So finding little tweaks like that in the system is gold. It helps lock in like this is it makes it a stronger product by seeing a cool idea and then figuring out how to keep that idea's flavor intact without breaking things at different tiers of play. Hence the need for extensive playtesting. We had done playtesting for this system from level 16 to 20 throughout 2024, and so it works great at high levels. It's kind of hard to break the game at level 17 because the game is just broken at 17 as it is. So then it just comes down to DM techniques to know how to pace an adventure, and that's a DM thing. That's not a system thing. But what we really needed to do is make sure that everything's really tight in the first and second tier of play, where most people spend their time, and balance is actually the most important. As you gain more and more levels, balance becomes less and less important because the amount of resources they have is insane. The type of damage they can take and deal becomes insane. It's really about just not here's a secret about playtest. Here's a secret about game design. If you're making new ideas, if they are statistically in line or weaker than options that already exist inside of the game, introducing a new way of looking at those things doesn't break the game. It just creates diversity. If your statistical curve or your resource pool isn't exceeding what somebody else is already able to do in the game by rules as written, assuming that thing isn't broken, what you're doing is good. You just need to test it to make sure that it feels right and that there's nothing weird that you didn't see crop up that causes you heartache later on. So hopefully that, like I said, I'm not wording good today. Hopefully that makes sense. God, I'm feeling pretty good about this check. Paying with your action economy for almost free-form superiority dice type deal. Yeah. We see like DC 20 and Nimble and Draw Steel and Pathfinder 2. And I guess Starfinder 2, and already having implemented these ideas for years. But the way that they do it is you have X amount of points to spend on actions during your turn, which could be equivalently actions, bonus actions, casting spells, movement, attacks. But 5e doesn't work that way. If you have a bonus action versus a standard action, you can devote different levels of power. Like bonus actions conflict each other, while actions remain consistent in what they can do. So if you have a bunch of cool things that can all be done only as a bonus action, you're forcing them to make options between those things when they're available for you to use. So you can give more power to bonus actions as opposed to an action point economy system where everything has to be equal in value. Otherwise, you're just going to do that one thing as many times as your action economy allows you to do, which is what I'm talking about, like with the bonus action. So if you instead take these things and if you remove this action economy, you gain additional resources to do more with what action economy you have left. I'm not wording good today, but I think I already explained that hopefully sufficiently. But yeah, that's what we're experimenting with right now. So far, it's working really well, and it's allowing us to do. We can do more with less. Like I don't have to make a specific maneuver really impressive if you can do it consistently. It's like, this is a good consistent thing that I can do. If I don't know what to do with my bonus action, I can do this thing. Or like if I don't have to move, I can create some mana and then like give an ally something to do with their reaction, for instance. Like so like a lot of the maneuvers, like Battle Masters, for instance, they have options that let them, like the Battle Master, you swap your superiority die and like a bonus action to give somebody else a reaction. So in that instance, you're swapping your action economy for somebody else's action economy. So that's another example where this stuff already exists inside of the game system. We're just tweaking it a little bit more. So like the Battle Master can not move and use a bonus action to then for free gain that superiority die to issue the command for your fighter to use their reaction right now to attack that thing. Like that's a really good way to swap the economy. There's if you have multiple attacks, you can sacrifice subsequent. Like if I hit you and I've got attacks left over, I can forego those attacks to gain extra mana, so I can do more damage with that one hit that I did. If I miss that one hit, now I have to spend extra attacks to try to finally hit. And if I want to have that much impact, I now have to use my own mana supply to be able to ramp that damage. So we're able to actually pace through combat in like 3 or 4 rounds. We're able to go through a good fight and actually resolve it pretty quickly. So combat moves really fast by sacrificing your action economy, but doing more with what you have left over. So you're having less decisions that have more impact on the current combat, and it's only in initiative, because we already have features that are like in combat or out of combat. Like Rangers, for instance, while out of combat, your movement rate increases while moving in a forest or whatever. Like we have examples already inside the 5e system where it's like, are you in combat? Yes, I am. Okay, well, you can do these things. Are you in combat? No, I'm not. Well, okay, great. You can do these things. So that dynamic already exists in the current 5e game engine. We're just leaning into those ideas and seeing, like, because the biggest complaint that people have about like martials is that you don't have choices, and that the idea of dealing consistent, steady damage versus punchy burst damage doesn't work if you only have 2 or 3 fights a day. The wizard's going to be able to just dump all of their resources into those combats, and the characters, the martial characters, need like 30 rounds of combat for their steady rhythm to catch up in the damage that they can deal to the creatures that you're fighting. So it doesn't work. That argument is ineffective. So it's good, yeah. And it feels like action and bonus action fight each other in 5e economy sometimes, but more freeform allows you to. Yeah, it's fun. But the full casters don't get these benefits. The full casters have a large pool that they can nova with or pop off huge effects. So like the martial characters, like they're basically working on an Eldritch Knight action economy, like up to 4th level spells, though they can spend 5 mana at 17th level. So they have a half casting progression and power growth, but the actual powers themselves only scale to 4th. So you can like overclock by spending more mana on the thing, like spend 5 mana instead of capping at 4. You can have more of an impact. But the point is that the spellcasters don't have dynamic action economy to generate mana to cast spells, because all their stuff is ritualized. They have to pull out the thing and say the words. That generates the mana from their pool to be able to cast the effect. So the trade-off is a lot of... it kind of actually leans into the trope where fighters are steady, have steady rhythm and catch up to the wizards over time. We can actually better portray that by exchanging action economy for higher impact, because that is literally your characters having less effect per action, but they can pool their actions together to have just as much of an impact as the full casters can in the 2nd and 3rd tier, of them using their action to do a big bang and then not really having anything big to do with their bonus action or their movement. So in that sense, it actually portrays that idea of martials being able to consistently do cool but less effective things than the big flashbang wizard and sorcerer and druids and stuff like that. So it actually leans into the trope more by allowing action economy to exchange that way. Ironically, it's more effective. It's a better ludonarrative of how they say these classes are supposed to work in comparison. And then you can multi-class, so you can blend things. Like you can have some action like you can't use mana generation for spell casting, but you can for powers. So are you going to push your character in attaining more powers, or are you going to push your character to have more spells? The more spells you have, the larger battery you have, which you can use because it's all the same mana system. So your character, your fighter wizard, your Gish fighter wizard, your wizard is going to give you a larger pool of mana that you can either blow through quickly with big flashbang spells, or you can use that mana pool to pump your martial character's abilities, and you don't have to give up as much action economy to be able to do the same things. But at the same time, your wizard doesn't have as many hit points, doesn't have as good combat capabilities, and you don't gain any ranks of power when you progress spell casting, and you don't gain any spell levels when you progress power. So you're having to choose between which one am I going to, which one is going to increase. So even though your wizard might give you, like your fighter wizard might have like 60 mana, but you can't spend more than 2 or 3 mana at a time on anything that your fighter would do. So you have this huge pile of mana, and you're just going to have to go through it. Either you're going to dump at the rate of 2nd and 3rd level spells every round, or you're going to be able to dump all that stuff. Or you could, like a 20th level wizard would be able to, like the 9th level, 8th level, 7th level, 7th level, 6th level, 6th level, 5th level, 5th level, 5th level, and then you're out of combat for the day. So you've only had, as a full caster, only had to spend 5th and higher level spells to resolve the threats in combat, as opposed to the fighter. It's like 3rd level effect, 3rd level effect, 2nd level effect, I'm done. 3rd level effect, 3rd level effect, I'm done. 3rd level effect, 5th level effect, I'm done. They're pacing out. They can't match that heavy hitting that the full casters can, but they have a higher cadence of being able to pop off lower level effects. So if I have like a wizard 10, fighter 10, I'll have up to, I can spend 3 mana at a time as a fighter, and I can spend 5 mana at a time as a wizard, but I only have like maybe 10, like probably like 50 mana overall. So, and I can only spend 3 mana at a time, regardless of being a 20th level character. My fighter can't spend more than 3 mana at a time on any martial effects. My fighter, my wizard can't spend more than 5 mana at a time on any big flashbang effects. So they intentionally get in the way of each other. So you can, but like a 20th level fighter wizard using this power system can gish pretty fucking hard, because you can have pretty damn good 5th level flashbang effects coming off of your wizard, and have tempo that you can run as your martial character. So you can switch any time to tempo, flashbang, tempo, flashbang, tempo, flashbang, tempo. And that'll get you through like maybe 15 rounds of combat in your day, and you're done. Anyway, rambling, very, very much rambling. The point of all that is that system's coming along really nicely, a lot better than I had thought it would. And I had concerns for a while, but it felt so good at 16th, 17th, 18th, 20th level when we were running our campaign last year. It's like, this has got to work. So let's figure out a way to make sure this scales okay from 1st level, so you can get to the point where you have that strong 4th tier power fantasy, and your fighter feels awesome because of the kind of shit you can punch out. It feels competitive against full casters. And it looks like the way that they're scaling up monsters in 5e24, that this system actually sits nicely inside the power curve. So I'm pretty excited. All my shit takes forever fucking to publish. It's just super slow, just because the amount of intent and detail and work that I try to put into these things to make sure that they're bulletproof. So then it's just a matter of, do you like it or not? It's not a matter of does it work or not. It's just a matter of, does this fit the vibe for what you want to do with your game? Because there's always people that want different vibes, but do they have an option that actually functions? Or is the options that you currently have for the vibe that you want going to break your game? So when I'm making things, I'm looking for vibes with mechanics that are going to actually improve the quality of the game. Most homebrew degrades the quality of the game because it's missing some sort of element. It doesn't it's misunderstand. it's misunderstood a component of what makes the game engine work. And I can in lacking all modesty, I've ran every edition of the game. I'm really familiar over decades of how D&D works and how the tempo works and what feels good. So when I start throwing mechanics together, I just need to make sure that it stays in curve with whatever the current game system is to be able to remain viable. And that is something I am very thrilled about, very pleased. Makes me feel like my life hasn't been a waste. Yeah, it's fun. It's rewarding, and it rewards. It can be. I mean, you don't have to. The fun thing is that one of the options for learning powers, like you have a list of prepared powers and you have your mana pool that you spend on those powers that you select. But one thing that you can do instead of learning these mana powers is just learn extra feats. There's like 45 feats in the player's handbook that are good to go for marshals just to be able to pick up. So like by 3rd level, your character can literally have every feat that you need in the game for you to finally, to hit the character to build the kind of character that you want. And you aren't even using your mana pool. So when you get to 4th level, you can actually use your feat to improve your ability scores. And not feel like, shit, I wanted Pam, or I wanted Sentinel, or I wanted Piercer or Poisoner. Like, you have to... The marshals have to sacrifice to get cool things, while full casters just get cool things on top of all their feats. So by building the system and allowing you to swap in feats instead of powers, they don't cost anything. They always work. You can always use Pam. You can always use Sentinel. It's free when you learn it. Those are effectively cantrips. So you can stack up all these different powers. Like, I don't want to worry about mana. Fuck it. Just a ton of feats, ton of weapon masteries, a ton of fighter initiates, which are now feats. So obviously those qualify as well. So if you want your character to, like, this stuff is too complicated, well, cool. Just pick a bunch of feats that you like and ignore your mana pool. And now you're playing just a basic fighter with a ton of feats, and you get to do what you want. Meanwhile, the barbarian next to you is diving into the idea of mana and is punching out all these rage strikes, while your character has Sentinel and Pam and Piercer, and with that pike, you're absolutely locking down targets that your barbarian can then run up and just smack the head off of. So like you can actually combo your characters really well by different characters implementing different aspects of the martial system to be able to lean into, I want to do mana effects, or I want all these freebie effects. Like we've got an arcane archer who's leaned into weapon masteries, so you can select different weapon masteries to use when you hit somebody with an attack. So you can vex or slow or blind. Blind is proving to be really effective because almost everything in the game requires you to be able to target something, spell casting, attacks, etc. Blindness is an issue, and I'm thinking that's going to end up being a real sleeper power, like a real sleeper power creep. Like once people realize, I can just blind things, and like almost all the maneuvers and reactions and stuff that a marshal can do requires being able to see things. So the next thing I need to do is revisit and really study what 5e24 says about targeting things you can't see, because I know it has, like, you can target a location even if you can't see a creature at that location, if it's like hidden or concealed or something like that. If you can target the location that it's in, you can still effectively interact with that. Like if an invisible creature, you choose the square that you think that creature is occupying and target the effect there. And if you're right, then you have a chance, a reduced chance of affecting that target. So I need to revisit those rules that are outlined, because I think that's going to resolve the problem. Like it imposes disadvantage when a target is blind, but you can still attack. You're just blind. You can still target spell effects into a location, but if you're wrong, you waste the effect and nothing happens. So there is that. But I think there's more nuance that can be imposed into it. So impose isn't the right word. Inject. I think it could be more nuanced. That's the proper way of saying that. It can be more nuanced than that, and I want to explore that more. And now that we're discovering like that monk issue of being able to use action economy makes Flurry of Blows too good. We now need to go through and review all of the options that we've created for like variants for all the subclasses and class features to see where other potential sticking points, similar sticking points exist for us to route out, test a little bit, and verify if they're a problem or not. Anyway, God, I'm rambling. What? Oh yeah, I've got a clock going, and it is 7:40. So I'm going to go ahead and put my last 20 minutes on the block. I am so hungry. I had I am an intermittent fasting enthusiast. I used to weigh 310 pounds. I lost 110 pounds in a year through intermittent fasting. And so now I've been bouncing and cycle, like being relaxed and eating what I want and slowly gaining weight and then getting more strict and starving myself back down again. I'm in a cycle of gain and loss, and it's a little yo-yo for me, and I'm not necessarily happy with that long term. But I typically gain weight during the holidays, go figure, and then I burn it off again in the first quarter. And so I'm in the... I got up to 230 this year from 200. So that's a pretty big gain. I've been pretty liberal with how I've been eating too well for the past like 5 months, and it's caught up to me. So it's time for me to back down. So I wake up just absolutely starving. I typically have my meal around 10 o'clock in the morning. Because I work from home, so if I'm starving all day at home, it's really difficult for me to concentrate. So I'm just going to want to go eat food, and so denying myself going and eating that food is difficult. When I used to go into the office, back in the days of working in the office, I just wouldn't bring any food with me, and I wouldn't have an opportunity to go get a meal until like actual lunchtime. And so that would basically resolve itself for me. But me being next to my fridge all day, I either have to leave my fridge empty and go shopping if I want a meal, which is what I had to do when I worked downtown. It was expensive. Or I set a pace so where I can make sure I'm fed, because it's focusing on the work is the most important thing. Making sure I've got the attention span and stamina to get the work done that needs to get the work done. And so if I'm starving myself and just thinking about food, I am not thinking about getting my job done. So there's a balance there. And I've been working from home 3 years now, so I'm starting to understand that balance a little bit better than I used to. Right now we're getting kind of nitpicky. With the character, some of the details that probably don't matter because of the resolution of the image. Like, you really got to fucking zoom in on the PDF. Like, here's the page, and like here's probably the level of text that's comfortable for you to read. And here's the illustration. Like, how crazy detailed do I really need this to make? Arguably not much more. So I think I want to work, I think I just want to spot in a couple little highlights here. I'm going to go with a transparency and drop in the sky color. I'm going to use that as highlights here real quick. And then I'm probably going to call her done. Right on. There is a lot of benefits. Well, you probably already know this. There's a ton of benefits about starving yourself. It turns on your immune system so you get over sickness better. Like, what do they say? Starve a fever? It breaks fevers faster. It helps boost your immune system. Makes you helps you focus and key in better. Like once you get used to it. Like I was saying, like being hungry is absolutely distracting. You just have to have a tempo. Like if your body expects, like if you train your body, you're it's like Pavlov, and your dog, like the dog inside your mind is like, dude, it's 6 o'clock, it's dinner time, and like suddenly it's like you are starving. You weren't even thinking about it until you got 15 minutes away from when you would normally eat, and suddenly your body is like, remember how starving you are? Yeah. I went all of July 2022. I didn't eat that month. I lost 25 pounds that month. This is when I was still like around 270 pounds, I think. And I dropped down to 250 something that month. That was ridiculous. I would never have imagined I can go an entire month without eating. Insane. So I know I can just choose to not eat for a little bit and I'll automatically knock the weight off. My body knows it can do that. So now it's like, how about some cheesecake? I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. I can just starve myself for a while next week. Feast, like the human body really is meant for feasting and famining. It's kind of crazy. So you're rewarded for bad behavior. I don't know how I really feel about that. It seems like you're cheating. Let's put that in there. Just blend that in a bit, and then we're gonna hit with an eraser, like a really low opacity eraser. Let's trim some of that away. There. Let's merge that down. And then I just want to add a little bit more shadow. And then I'll probably consider her done. We'll bounce back to the guy, clean him up just a touch. And then when we come back tomorrow, I need to push this up to 100%. There we go. And when we come back tomorrow, we'll deal with this broken branch, and then the piece will be done. We'll move on to the next one. I'm going to drop the opacity down on that one. Soften that a bit. Merge down, soften it. Feminine is soft. Soft angles, soft lines, soft lighting. Now I'm intentionally elongating their faces a little bit by dropping their mouth really low. It kind of stretches the face out, which feels like sorrow, which is the intent we're trying to get across with the piece. Is that they just lost somebody and there's not a goddamn thing they can do about it. These guys are going to be trauma-born for a while. But hey, the security mercenaries, they warn you got to stay out of the forest, man. It's dangerous. These guys, depending on which plot hook it is, that they didn't even know about the threat, or they intentionally ignored the threat and found out that it was serious. So depending on which plot hook you use, the people that are in the tree are different, and their disposition are different. There we go. I'm being really nitpicky right now, but just clean. I'm just trying to clean up the lines a little bit before we move on. Oh, I need to put some buttons on her gear. I think we have some accessory references already queued up. Darken that up. There we go. We're going to be back today around 12:30. We're going to continue working on the bastion mechanics. We're working on facilities right now and balancing how many facilities there are for each type of order, and so we've already done that. We have more crafting and empowerment facilities than anything else, which I think is probably appropriate considering the breadth of type of things that can be created through the facilities. So having more of them than anything else is that feels right. But then we need to make sure that everything has value. That like there's always going to be like something's going to be a little bit more optimal than another, especially if there's specific goals you're trying to achieve that a particular type of mechanic leans into. So for the bastions, I just want to. It's a very simple system. It's just it can get detailed quickly. There's a lot you could do with it if you decide to really lean into it, and it can get complicated, or complex might be a better word there. That feels pretty good. Smudge that together like that. This guitar pick that we this is that guitar pick, and then there. That's the guitar pick. Faded edge up here, and then hard edge here. I have it at 100% opacity, I'm sorry. I have 100% strength on my smudge brush, but it still has a gradient fade because of the curved edge of the pick. So I can lean into the tip and push 100% like the sculpt, and then I can flip it over, and I can use a soft edge to blend. So it's a really good tool that doesn't require, like I used to use this more cloudy, just like a what is it? A soft edge round brush used to be the basic smudging tool that I would use, but it's doesn't have, it's not an elegant tool. It's a very simple tool, and it uses its presettings in Photoshop make it when you're dealing with a high resolution image, it's like you can watch the cursor lock, and then the pixels smudge to catch up with where the cursor is at. It's like, I have to do that. I gotta figure out a way to build this differently. So I did. I fucked around with the Photoshop elements for like ever, and once I figured it out, we now have a universal smudge tool that I can use, just depending on how I angle it, is going to change the effect that it has on the piece that you're smudging. So if I can get the channel up to 3,000 hours and a view and sustain myself with 500 plus viewers, then I will publish that toolkit on my Patreon for people to pick up. I'll make it free. I'll just be there for you guys to grab. That will be my reward to you all for supporting my channel's growth. I keep bobbing around 2,800, 2,000. I'm always just a little shy of 2,900 hours. So I know I'll eventually get there as the tribe continues to grow. Just people plugging in an hour a day. If I had 1,000 people just plugging in an hour a day, or even I only need 9 hours of content consumed per day for me to be able to sustain a 3,000 hour watch minimum, which allows me to set up like a Shopify account, and so I can start putting stock art on Shopify. So like if you look off to the side, like sideboard over here. I mean, I have a paid account, but normally if you don't have a paid subscription to YouTube, you'd have. If you have a Shopify account, it would show up here underneath above your like what to watch next. So I can have a little section over there of like, hey, here's stuff that we're working on. I'll post it up over on the right hand side once it's done. That sort of thing. I think that's a gentle way for me to start looking at monetize. Like I do not monetize the work that I do hardly at all. I make the books. And then I put the books online and I promote the books, but I don't dive hard into like, here's stock art that I made, buy it, you know? Because all the art I make is specifically for the book that I'm making in the moment. And if I can make it something that I can extract to be stock art that might be valuable to somebody else, if it's generic enough to be valuable, then that's something I should package, but I don't really do it. I was doing stock art for a little bit, but it was like, I didn't like the amount of work I had to put in to get the thing up and running, like on DMsGuild or ttrpg. It just, I hate the administrative side of the artwork. It destroys the creativity for me. So I avoid it. It prevents me from making more money than I could, but I've got a really good day job. That will eventually betray me. I am aware of this. So I and my family will be better off if I invest more into this and make it more of a business. But at the same time, I'm terrified of making it a business because I don't want to kill. I don't want my motivation to change. I don't ever want to be a YouTuber that does clickbait titles because I fell short $500 last month, so now I need to make clickbait to try to draw in more audience. It feels disingenuous to me. No shade or hate thrown at other YouTube creators that they specialize that channel in. Everyone's got to get that bag somehow, but that just totally does not feel like my path. Yeah, merge that down. carve into that bicep a touch. Cool. Let's go to our references and see if we got some. There it is. Oh shit, that's my timer. All right, well, I'm gonna have to bounce. Bounce for now. Let me drop this in here. Yep, okay, cool. We're gonna leave that be. We're gonna come back. When we come back tomorrow, we'll have. I'm just gonna nitpick a little bit at her pouches and her her legging. Then we'll switch back over to this guy. I'm pretty happy with him. I want to just clean up. It's a little smudgy, so I want to clean it up a little bit. And yeah, and then here. So hopefully I'll have maybe 90 minutes tomorrow to be able to finish this up. I think that's reasonable. It'll certainly be done before the weekend. I'm convinced that is true. So on Monday, we'll probably be starting up a whole new painting altogether. And I don't know what that's going to be yet. It'll be something. And God's willing, we'll be able to knock down a few more pages, maybe like 5 or 6 pages. God, can you imagine 10 pages before Monday? That sounds so far away. But anyway, I'll be back. We'll continue working on Bastion System at 12:30 today. It's currently 8 o'clock here in Seattle, so I'll be back in about 4.5 hours at lunchtime. I will, thanks for hanging out, Domo, and I will see everybody else in the future. So thanks a lot for being here. Cheers.